What's good, YouTube? Steel here, and at the time of this recording, there's just under a week left of the Extradimensional Crisis ranked season, and it truly is crunch time if you have yet to meet your goals. As for me, I'm currently just outside the top 100, but my goal of finishing within the top 100 is very much alive. In this video, with the aid of large tournament results and my own personal experience as a top player in ranked, I will be presenting y'all with not only the strategies that I recommend for any last minute grinding, but I will also provide a sample deck list that y'all can use to help you through the grind. But whether your goal is to reach top 100 or simply have fun or anything in between, I'm sure there's a deck for you in this video. As always, I'd like y'all to consider subscribing as we post all things Pokemon Pocket, and if you're interested in watching my grind to the top 100, I stream weekdays on Twitch starting around 11 p.m. Eastern, although I'm working on bringing those streams to YouTube as well. But regardless, the link to my Twitch will be down below. Anyways, I hope this video helps you find a list that works for you. Best of luck on the final stretch of the season, and above all else, stay pro. As far as the format of this video, I'm making it a little different than anything that's been on my channel before. However, I did do my best to make it as simple and easy to follow. As you can see here, the very first deck that I'm suggesting is Silvally. Not necessarily like a specific version, but more Silvally as a concept. It's such a strong deck, especially going second. It's very fast, so when it comes to grinding, whether you win or lose, the game should be at a pace where you could keep up, especially in like Ultra Ball, where you win more points than you lose. In order to get to Master Ball, decks like these that you could afford to lose, as long as you're playing fast, you could actually get there even with like a below 50% win rate. However, the best part about Silvally is that it's such a strong deck that you shouldn't be having a negative win rate. And not only that, there's so many variations. And looking at the variations, the most popular ones tend to be Rampardos and Charizard. However, the other ones have seen success between Zeraora, Oricorio, and Blacephalon. Blacephalon at one point was piloted by the #1 player in all of Master Ball ranked. However, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this list. I do feel like it's a little glass cannon-y. The Zeraora Oricorio list tends to be a little more flexible, far more. Out of the 5 versions that I have here, I believe that's my favorite because it's so versatile in how it could win games. It's not necessarily trying to outspeed you, although it really can, and it's not trying to just hit you with something big after the fact. It has the variation of if they have EXs, you just sit on Oricorio. If they're rather slow, you outspeed them. If they're faster than you, you could kind of slow down the pace, maybe leave Zeraora, take some few hits, and we'll look into a list. But yeah, it's probably my favorite of the 5. But out of popularity, it definitely leans towards Rampardos and Charizard. And then when it comes to Giratina, it's not the most popular, it's not the most successful. Realistically, it's even hard to find a successful list of this. As a top player in Master Ball, I have to admit that I've seen quite the amount of other top players that are ranked way above me, be using this list, so I felt it was only correct to at least mention it. Although I have to be honest, I do not have a list to present to you because it'd be misleading. However, when it comes to lists that I could recommend, we obviously have the Rampardos Silvally version, which I feel like this list has been identical from the start of the season. However, it can't go wrong. It's very good. One thing that this specific list is missing that I was personally a fan of is Giovanni. However, the list is very flexible as long as you have enough supporters to activate Silvally, as well as having consistency pieces to find your Rampardos. The deck is very fast, very strong. My only gripe with the deck would have to be that I personally think that Rampardos and Silvally, the reason that you see more lists like Charizard, the Giratinas, is that both Rampardos and Silvally are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to both be aggressive. So it's not that it's conflicting, but it's kind of redundant. While the other versions that we'll see, like the of Charizard, for example, has the speed of Silvally, which is equivalent or equal to what Rampardos is trying to do. But then you also have the finishing touch of just building up a Charizard that could just sweep the game. And obviously, there's starts where you just have Charmander off the rip, going to Rare Candy, Charizard just wipes the entire board. And honestly, it feels like you can't even lose those games. And when it comes to the list that you see here, this is the one that won the Ursi Day. So it proves consistency in a large-scale tournament, round after round. The communication definitely helps with that, although I could see people playing Iono or just cutting the communication for the second Gladion, however you want to pronounce that guy. But again, another very strong deck. It has the speed of Silvally and the finishing power of Charizard. Then we also have the Oricorio Zeraora version that I mentioned earlier. This version does not have that big finisher that we saw with Charizard, nor does it have a secondary speed element with Rampardos, but it does have the ramp of Zeraora, which with cards like Dawn gives you the versatility of attacking earlier than usual. As you can see, it has the Giovanni that I'm a big fan of. And honestly, the deck is far more versatile in the win condition than Charizard, that's obviously just leaning towards building that, or Rampardos that's just trying to hit you as hard as possible and hope it's enough. The one Oricorio allows you to have either steal victories from EX decks that go too fast, or just have an answer to some decks. Like Solgaleo tends to not have an answer to you, and just having that inkling or that additional like free win condition, it's like the perfect tool to climb, just like in whether it's Ultra Ball, Master Ball, whatever your goal is. Having that option that you could get an auto win here and there, it's always powerful, which is why I'm such a big fan of climbing with Oricorio. And then you obviously have the same aggression that Silvally is offering in all these other builds. The second option that I refer to as like I guess a second idea is Charizard, especially the Stoke Charizard. Definitely one of the better cards, but it's another one that lands in not just a specific version. As for the variations for this one, we have the Silvally, which we already looked at, and it's probably the one that I recommend the most out of these three. However, there's the new inclusion of the Stoutland version, which we'll be looking at afterwards, and then the Incineroar version. I just have to mention it because it does exist. However, in my opinion, it's not worth playing because I don't feel like you could come up over the existence of Oricorio. It doesn't feel good if you're trying to climb and then every now and then you'll find that yellow bird and you can't really beat it. I know that Incineroar's ability to burn, and then if you're playing the basic versions, you could also deal damage, but realistically, they're built to outlast you. But overall, it's just not worth it in my opinion. So if I had to pick a Charizard deck, I would definitely pick Silvally. But if you're interested in the Stoutland version, we do have this list right here. As you can see, it's very centralized in just like building both of them. Stoutland obviously buys you time with its ability to just make your opponent have to wait an extra turn of like adding up energy to be able to finally attack. Both Pokemon are able to be healed as they're both stage 2s with Lily, so that's why you max out on Lily. Potion and Lily end up putting you above the range of many attacks, and since your opponent is delayed in making those attacks when Stoutland is up, just the extra resilience of extra healing could get annoying. As far as how serious the deck is, I haven't personally tried this deck out. I might try it out on stream, but I'm a little hesitant on Stoutland, but I have been burned by him in the past, so I felt like it was necessary to bring up. The third concept is Nihilego. Initially, this was just going to be Dartina, but then the more I thought about it, I also wanted to add a Guzzlord to the list. So like when I took a step back and looked at what the list had in common, or what was the actual reason why these decks were valid, 100% became because of Nihilego and Poison Barb. As we see the two variations, you have your Dartina decks and your Guzzlord deck. And although Dartina is still very consistent, very strong, in my personal experience, when I'm playing against it, it never feels too threatening or too like unbeatable until you find that Poison Barb and they have a Nihilego standing in the back and you're just like, what's going on? Also, the version without Nihilego loses very hard to Oricorio, so it's one of those decks that I can't recommend to somebody if you're just gonna lose automatically to a card. Granted, that's not a reason not to play the deck either. One of my concepts before in other videos is that if you lose to one, let's say Oricorio beats you every time you see it, what are the chances you're gonna see Oricorio in like 10 games? Let's say you see Oricorio twice, that means you still have a good matchup in your other 8 games, and if you have an 80% win rate, granted it's probably not realistic, that's like still huge, so you could sacrifice those games if you wanted to. But personally, since the grind is so long and could be pretty tedious, I don't want to sacrifice those games. Thus, the best version of Dark Giratina that I could recommend is the Nihilego version. And then Guzzlord, although on paper should struggle with Buzzwole, trust me, if you lead with a Poison Barb, any deck that's going against you, even if they have the type advantage like Buzzwole has on Guzzlord, if you have enough like healing and stuff like we'll see in the list that I will be providing, it's very tough. It's very tough. But yeah, as for Dark Giratina, it's a very standard list. This list has been basically essentially the same thing. This is almost like the equivalent of the Koala list from last season, except you're obviously swapping out the Rocky helmets for Barbs to be able to enable the Nihilego extra damage. And ultimately, the Barb ends up being more annoying in most matchups, to the point where even without setting out Nihilego, the residual poison could stop an Oricorio on its own. But then obviously having the ability to also attack with the Nihilego gives you that extra oomph that you need to be able to beat the Oricorio decks, while the rest of the deck is still your standard Dark Giratina deck that's very consistent and very playable regardless of what your opponent's on. And then obviously we have a Guzzlord deck. This is without the Poipo line. Personally, I believe it's a stronger one because it's more consistent. When you're not worrying about stage 1, like all basics, this is essentially like the dark version of the Buzzwole deck. Its Ultra Beasts are very strong. You have the same benefits, right? You have the Lusamine, you have the free retreat and exchanges with Celesteela. You have the added bonus that Guzzlord has 170 HP, so you don't have to play cards like Cape, or in the Cape, obviously you can't play Leaf Cape, but you wouldn't be playing Giant's Cape. And then Barb with Nihilego is just huge. And then the addition of being able to fit Beastite into this list is huge in my opinion, mainly because Guzzlord plus Beastite, after getting, like, say you knock out their first Buzzwole, or you start chipping at their damage, you can finally swing for 140. There's a huge breakpoint in this format specifically. And another thing that's very important in this list is the double PCL. One of the ways that Buzzwole could beat you is if they start tagging the Guzzlord in the back, putting you in range for Guzzlord. But if you're able to heal away out of that range, it's very hard for the Buzzwole to finally push that last bit of damage to beat you. Then the next one, as I've been alluding to or bringing up a lot, is Oricorio in every shape or form, even whether it's the heart of the deck or just a one copy. The Oricorio is such a strong deck in climbing Master Ball because every now and then you'll find your Solgaleos, you'll find your Charizards. They're either not seeing their Silvally or not playing it at all. And then there's obviously Darkrai Giratinas that maybe they don't see their poison or they're just playing the pure list. And decks like that, Oricorio really shines. And being able to steal those games every now and then help the climb. Not to mention that the decks that you put Oricorio in. So as you can see, the 3 variations that I recommend or that I have tried or I'm a fan of is the Silvally. Obviously, we already looked at it with the Zeraora. There is a version without the Zeraora, but I think that one fell off, especially since Solgaleo is not as popular currently. And people have adapted their Darkrai Giratinas and their Charizards to play outs to Oricorio. If we were still in a format where they didn't, then obviously the Zeraora list version that's just Silvally and Oricorio is very strong. But again, play the one that I already... If you're going to play Silvally with Oricorio, play the version that I showed earlier. Then we have Magnezone. That's not necessarily an Oricorio list. It's more of a Shiinotic Magnezone list, which we will look at. But Oricorio is there doing its thing. And then probably my favorite deck this format, the Greninja Oricorio list, that I already have a video on, but we'll still look at the list regardless. As you can see here, we have the Greninja Oricorio list with the 1 Giratina, 1 Pyukumuku. This list overperformed in my opinion. When I was playing earlier this season, I got to top 50. I think I peaked at 44 or somewhere around there. With this list just going crazy. Granted, there's a lot of variance. If you don't find your Greninja, you're struggling. If you don't find Giratina against certain matchups, you're struggling. Pyukumuku early against Silvally is great. If you don't have the Pyukumuku, you might be in for a world of hurt. Like, obviously, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to this list, but I'm a big fan of it. If you want to see gameplay or a deeper breakdown into this list specifically, I do have a video on it, which I'll link down below, as well as put a time card. But yes, I can't recommend this list enough. It's a lot of fun. It has all the benefits of having Oricorio. It has all the benefits of having a finisher like Giratina. Pyukumuku helps with the aggression. If you find a Greninja early, there's a lot of matchups that cannot deal with the output of damage. And there's no play like more busted than having a built-up Giratina with the ping damage of Greninja followed by a Cyrus. Being able to do that play is insanity. Granted, this list only plays 1 Cyrus, but if you were to find a space for a second one, by all means try it. It's a lot of fun. And then the other list that I mentioned was the Shiinotic Magnezone list. Not necessarily an Oricorio list, but the reason I put it under this umbrella because it does play Oricorio. And again, you still have all the benefits of playing Oricorio. Granted, just being at 1 copy, having that just for all the EX decks is huge. And then the Shiinotic was almost like the answer that Magnezone needed in terms of consistency. But maybe if you're not in the top of Master Ball, maybe in Ultra Ball where there's a lot less, or at least there's more variance, so there's not that much like just a bunch of mirror matches or a bunch of Buzzwole matches, you're able to actually succeed with this list. Regardless, if you're looking for something to play, this is definitely a very consistent deck, and it has a very high upside, and everything's a 1-pointer, which goes a long way in winning some matchups. Definitely a deck worth trying. Hopefully it works for y'all. And then the last deck that I could recommend, and I can't recommend enough, is Buzzwole. Buzzwole is currently like my main deck that I'm playing. It's the one that's carried me the most. Like after Greninja Oricorio got me to top 100, I started falling like losing my footing in the format. The format adapted and I was struggling to find like what could get me there, mainly because the Greninja Oricorio was so volatile. Some games, or like I would go in 8-game win streaks, but then I would lose like 5 in a row. It was all over the place. Not to take away from that list is still very strong. Like, I'm not recommending you a loose cannon. It's just the variance that happens when you're playing a rare candy list. Buzzwole allows you to have the power of basically like Darkrai Giratina in the form that you're playing all basics. So this is in the same category for me as the Guzzlord or the Darkrai Giratina list. When you're playing all basics, you're not struggling with like, oh, if I don't see rare candy, oh, if I don't see my evolution, oh, if I don't see, I don't know, fill in the blank with whatever potential you can't see. It becomes a lot less relevant when everything in your deck is just a basic Pokemon. Granted, there will be games where you're like, oh, I didn't see Buzzwole or I didn't see Celesteela, and that could get awkward, but this is just the strongest deck in my opinion, not only of the format, but just in general. Like the best, it's so consistent, it's so strong. There's a lot of like nuance to it. I feel like a lot of people might just be like, oh, it's the best deck, oh, it's brain dead, it's easy. Honestly, there is a learning curve to this deck. If you just like somebody that knows what they're doing and somebody that doesn't, if you both have playable hands, the one who knows what they're doing is a clear advantage. However, there will be hands where like they saw Cyrus and you didn't, and you'll lose like that. But nonetheless, the list that I recommend for this one is this one, which again, just like the Greninja Oricorio, if you want to see a deeper look into this list as well as gameplay, I do have a video on it. Again, time card, description down below, you'll find it there. But yes, this list has worked the best for me. I'm a big fan of having the 7 basics. Especially against Oricorio and stuff, having that, not having to depend on a Celesteela coin flip every time is pretty, like, feels pretty good. What I have seen is people drop this, what in my list is a second Pheromosa for either a second Erica or a second Cyrus. There's also people that instead of double Leaf Cape, they're playing Rocky Helmet and Giant Cape, because you could put Giant Cape on Celesteela. Me personally, I don't value the health of Celesteela, and it's worked for me so far. But again, to each their own. Play styles matter. However you feel comfortable matters. This has been the most successful list. This is probably the list that I'll be writing out till the end, unless maybe with a change here or there, depending on where the format goes. But as of right now, this is probably the list that I'll be carrying to the very end. Hopefully I finish in top 100. Hopefully you guys are able to finish wherever it is that you want to finish. It could be top 100, top 1000, Master Ball, Ultra Ball, whatever your goal is. Even if it's just to have fun, you will for sure find it somewhere in the list in this video. Whether it's Charizard, like being able to hit everything for basically lethal once it's on drop, Dark Tina poisoning and then just slowly breaking down stuff with Nihilego, or just outspeeding everything with a Silvally start. Whatever it is that you find fun in this format, or maybe just a variety of decks. Maybe you build every list in this video, and the ability to jump from one deck to the other keeps you, like, I don't know, engaged with the game. Whatever it is, I hope you find it in this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, as we post everything Pokemon Pocket. And we are just like 4 subscribers away from 600, which blows my mind, because I feel like we just got 500. Y'all keep supporting me. It means the world to me. So again, thank you for watching, and above all else, stay pro.